It is the Boston Celtics and it is the Miami Heat, with the Heat being an 8-point underdog. We were seeing some 8.5s before, but those have dried up. Totals between 210 and 210.5. What do you make out of this Game 1 line? Because with the Heat, I feel like at some point we're going to see a little bit of regression with them, but it just has not come to this point. Actually, I think that we did see a little bit against the Knicks, but the Knicks were just flat out terrible just throughout the entirety of that series, so they weren't able to take advantage of it. Meanwhile, for the Boston Celtics, they've got the talent to be able to win this series in like 4 to 5 games. I just don't think that they're going to show it, because I don't think that they're going to make the adjustments enough throughout the series to be able to win this series convincingly.
All right, Greg, I'm going to do 3 things here. First, I'm going to start with my favorite series bet. Then I'm going to talk about the series as a whole. And then I'm going to talk about Game 1 specifically. My favorite series bet here, this series over 5.5 games. Got it from -120 on DraftKings. 5.5. Think about that. You're only asking the Heat to get it to 6 games. Here's a fun little stat for you. Ever since Jimmy Butler showed up in South Beach, the Heat have played 10 playoff series. They've either won or gone to at least 6 games in 9 of those 10. And now the Celtics are heavy favorites to win the series. There's the off chance the Heat win it in 4 or 5. I mean, nobody really expected them to beat the Bucks in 5, but I don't think many people are going to project that to happen. So I think over 5.5, we're probably going to get a 6 or 7 game series. Whichever side of the line you're on, I think it's a little disingenuous to put the Heat at plus 400, but I think you could make a decent argument for both sides. So that's my favorite series bet. Talking about the series as a whole, the Celtics and the Heat have a lot of familiarity with one another. They split the regular season series 2-2. They met in the 2020 conference finals in the bubble. The Heat obviously won that, moved on to the NBA finals. And then they met in the conference finals last year. They went 7 games, and the Celtics were up 3-2 in that. The Heat go on the road. Jimmy Butler goes for 47 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists, sends the game back to South Beach, and then he has 35 and 9 in that Game 7. And he has a pull-up three-pointer with 16 seconds left, down 2. He makes that shot. They're up 1 with 16 seconds left. The Celtics had given up a 13-point lead in the final 3 minutes of that game. So the Heat have all the momentum. You don't really trust the Celtics to make a shot in that situation. So you can basically boil it down to the Heat beat them before, and they were 1 shot away from beating them last time. So the fact that that line is set at 5.5 games, I don't like it at all. But let's actually focus in on Game 1 here. What am I expecting from these guys? Well, the Celtics have this problem, and they play up to their competition, which is great, but they also play down to them. Let's look back at these playoffs. We don't even have to go back historically. Just look back a couple of weeks. They go 6 games with the Atlanta Hawks. Again, feeding into my over 5.5. The Hawks are not a good team. The days before the series started, there were reports that the Hawks wanted to trade Trae Young. You don't think that was messing with his mind, and yet the Celtics still couldn't capitalize? Okay, what about the Sixers series that they're just coming off of? Sure, Tatum played 5 quarters consecutively of sensational basketball, but they were still down 3-2. They lost the Game 1 they should have never lost at home without the MVP in the lineup. And then they let James Harden again go for a 40-point win in Game 4. And really, they had to have this amazing comeback in Game 6. The Sixers blew it. The Sixers should be in the conference finals right now. The fact that it's the Celtics, it speaks to Doc Rivers being fired and James Harden probably being on his way out of there. So with the Heat coming to town, Jimmy Butler is somebody that is willing to come in and punch your star in the mouth. The Celtics have the better top-to-bottom team. I'm not going to argue with that. But Butler, he raises his play more than anybody in the playoffs. Eric Spoelstra versus Joe Mazzulla in the coaching battle, that's completely lopsided. 8.5 points, that's a really big line. And with the resiliency that the Heat have shown they have, I'm taking the Heat at +8, and it's kind of a no-brainer for me.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.